Welcome to another episode of Random Chess Person. That's me. This is a remake of my previous episode, which wasn't perfectly made. The idea here is that we've all blundered pieces, moves, checkmate, and I wanted a simple checklist for myself, and anyone else can use it too, to stop those blunders. Between each move, I wanted to look at, can they checkmate me? Can I checkmate them? Can I capture a piece? Can they capture a piece? Are there threats available? And so on. And I knew I wouldn't be able to remember a lengthy list, because if you search the internet for things to think about between each chess move, you will find, like I did, forum threads on chess.com or Lichess or other places where there's lists of 17 things and 22 things that some players claim that they consider or think about between every move. If they do, well, good for them, but I can't remember that many things. I wanted a simple memory device or mnemonic, like an acronym. So I searched for acronyms to help you remember things in chess, and I didn't find very many. Pardon me, having some coffee. I did find some things that people called acronyms, like CCT, which is not an acronym. It's an initialism for checks, captures, and threats. And that's good. We should all look for checks, captures, and threats. But anyway, an example of what I'm talking about is on the board before you. I was playing white. And here, my opponent took my knight, because it was hanging. And neither one of us noticed that on their very next move, they have checkmate. I'm threatening the king. I see this. What I saw, honestly, was not the check. I saw the free bishop, and I took it. And fortunately, my opponent did not see checkmate on the next move and moved away. I moved my bishop out of the way to check. They blocked with their bishop. And then I again did not see this. So I played something like developing a knight, and then they saw it, and the game was over. That was on the 15th move, by the way. And just as, let's see if I can find another example from a different game. Now, this is a game I played just a couple days ago, a rapid game, where my opponent had inexplicably moved their queen to this spot. And I thought, what if I move this pawn up? Then I'll chase their queen away. So I did that. Oddly enough, they did not move their queen away. Perhaps wanting to give me a free pawn, because clearly that's just a free pawn. But I didn't know. I thought it was a trap or a trick of some kind, but I went ahead and took their queen. And then I expected they would take one of my bishops, but they didn't. Yeah, so the game got crazy. But the point is, right here, my opponent should have asked themselves, are any of my pieces in danger? And what can I do about that? Perhaps get out of the way. So anyway, I came up with my own acronym, and that's what this video is about. And I'm going to shift to this other screen if I can. There we go. Before each move, wait. And this was prompted by the advice I always give my son when he's playing a rapid game. Just wait a second. Look around. What can you do? What can they do? And so I used this for the acronym and made each letter stand for something. The W stands for weaknesses. Look for the weaknesses of yourself and your opponent. A stands for attacks. I for imbalances. And T for time. Make use of this as you will, or not, or ignore it, but I will say that I don't think it's in order of importance. If you're in a really fast game, time is probably most important. And if you're a beginner, probably attacks are the most important one. But I'm going to go through them one by one to show you what I'm talking about. When I say weaknesses, I'm talking about your kings, your pieces, your pawns, your squares. Are they guarded? Are they unguarded? And you can get as deep into each one of these as you want or as shallow as you want. But basically, I want to know, are any of my pieces under attack? If they come under attack, are they guarded? Or can they be guarded? Can they be moved to a safer square? And so forth. One thing I've started looking at lately is this bottom line here. Which pieces are undeveloped? Like, often my rooks are the last to develop. They're stuck back in those corners, hidden behind knights and bishops and pawns. So they're inactive. They're basically trapped. Also, which pieces are pinned? A game can be won or lost sometimes if one player has pieces that are trapped, inactive, undeveloped, while the other's player has their pieces out there doing something. So that's weaknesses. Under attacks, I am talking about checks, captures, and threats. And in the examples that I showed you, this would have saved me. In that game where my opponent had a rook ready to come down and do checkmate, and I didn't look for it. I didn't ask myself, can my opponent check me? I did ask, can I capture anything? And which is why I took that bishop. But I should be looking for checks first. Are either one of us in check? Can I put the opponent in check? Can they put me in check? And if so, are those checks or attacks or threats? Are they easily refuted? Or do they force the opponent to move someplace where I want them to go? And how do they affect the position? If I move a piece to do a easily refuted check, is it going to weaken my position or strengthen their position? The simplest form, though, is to remember checks, captures, and threats. Imbalances is something I'm still learning. I'm just now becoming aware of this, and you can skip it if you want for now. The one that most of us focus on is material. Once you get a little bit more educated with chess, you start looking at who controls more space, what the pawn structures look like, where are the open files, the open diagonals for your rooks and bishops. That may come later. It's also something you don't have to look at each turn, just be aware of as the game progresses. Time, of course, is much more important in a faster game, bullet blitz, much less important in a classical or daily game. Although classical games are often lost on time, or once time is running out, players panic, make blitz-style moves. But the idea is to be aware of the clock, to check the clock, know how much time you have left, and remember to think and look at moves during your opponent's thinking time too. I've caught myself waiting for them to move, wondering what they'll do, and then doing all my thinking on my time. But you can think on both clocks. One thing I considered here, I've recently convinced myself to consider, is that, for example, in a rapid game, I actually have more time per move than I used to think. Because a rapid game, 10 minutes per player, that's 600 seconds for me and 600 seconds for my opponent. So if I expect this game to go as long as, say, 60 moves, that's 10 seconds per move. So I don't have to move every second, every 2 seconds, every 3 seconds. Pop, 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 pop. Like Ultra Bullet or something. In a rapid game, despite the name, you can pause. You've got time. 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10. Sometimes if the move is really important or crucial, maybe 20 or 30 seconds to look for those checks and attacks and threats. But you have to know how much time is left and whether or not you're ahead on time or behind on time. But again, the idea is a simple acronym that you can remember easily. WAIT. Weaknesses, attacks, imbalances, and time. With, in my opinion, attacks being the most important. And just real quick, I want to go look at those games that we talked about. Right here, when I move this pawn forward, my opponent should have immediately noticed that this queen is under attack. And even when they moved this, before they moved it, they should have thought, then what would I do? Because, I mean, it's a free pawn. I can just take it either way, right? So if they just considered, what attacks does my opponent have? What captures are available here? Once I moved this pawn out of the way, they should have got the queen out of the way. Simple as that. And in the first example I showed you from this game was actually against my son. Right about the time he took my knight, right there, I should have immediately not taken the bishop with either one of my pieces and immediately looked for checks. Okay, here's a check right there. Does he have any checks? Whoa, he has a checkmate. I have to do something about that. So I can postpone that checkmate with check. I can protect against it by moving my rook down here to guard that square. I could possibly move one of these pawns up to give my king a place to go. But what I can't do is what I did. I have to look and consider, oh, he has checkmate. That takes priority. I have to do something about that. So that's why I developed this acronym. It may not be original to me, but I found nothing before I came up with this. So I hope it helps you as much as it's helped me. I've already made use of it several times. And one last time, the acronym is, if I can get to the right screen, there we go. Having trouble with my video player. Weaknesses, attacks, imbalances, and time. Mainly, can they check me? Can I check them? And how strong are those attacks? Thank you for watching. Again, if you know more than I do, if you have some advice or corrections, feel free to leave a comment. Thank you.